Hi everybody. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Welcome back to our 31-day meditation challenge. At this point, to be honest, I have no idea what day we're on. But we're just going to keep going, okay? Because this is a really important topic that I want to share with you, and one that is essential to healing not just yourself, but as a soul, as a spirit in this human experience, this temporary human experience. Now, something that's been also coming up, yesterday we talked about, what did we talk about yesterday? We talked about basically how we are holding on to trauma fragmented in the body. And we went through kind of like the whole design of how that information is kind of stored within the body. And so today I want to talk about what happens. Somebody asked me a couple weeks ago about how fragmentation occurs through programming. And so this is one of the things, one of the ways, one of the aspects. There's many aspects to how fragmentation occurs, but this is one of the aspects that's really important to actually creating that kind of fragmentation in yourself. And it has to do with finding our truths. Today, in my meditation, I had a very strong realization that one of the things that keeps us from moving through our connection to ourselves and coming into our highest expression is any time that we deny ourselves of the truth. And what you'll realize is the further away you pull from yourself and get distracted in the external stimulation and all the things that are happening outside of you, the more disconnected you're going to be with what your truth is, what is really happening inside of you. And that's a big problem. So how does this develop in our bodies and in our minds, right? The most important thing is never to lie to yourself and never lie to others, because when we lie, there's a tremendous amount of series of things that happen within the body. It is a complete disconnect, and inherently the body knows how it needs to process information. Okay, so first of all, how do we even process what is true for us? How do we identify what is true for us? We have to, first of all, unleash those layers that we have to basically peel as we go in and start to look within at the layers of ourselves. This is one of the things that we really need to look at when we're peeling the layers of truth, not just of the external world, but of ourselves. There's a disconnect there between accepting what we're seeing as truth and then the perception, or we're allocating some kind of belief system or judgment on that truth. So that causes a big problem. Now, the human body inherently, because of its divine blueprint, because it is this infinite consciousness that is manifested in the physical body, knows what's truth. Since birth, since being in the womb, when you are inside the womb, you know exactly what is the balanced way of being, what is the most healthiest, what is the most nurturing and supporting of life environment that's best for you as a human organism. So what happens when we come out into the world and we start to experience all of this dualistic expression that we see in the world around us through the expression of our mother, our father, so on and so forth, we begin to look at, compare our inherent belief, our inherent truth with what we're experiencing, and then that's where the fragmentation begins. So this is going to take us down a big road to kind of take a look and check into how is it that we are experiencing our life. Now, just the fact that we're born into this body allows us to experience. That's the purpose of this life, is to experience things. So everything that we're going to be experiencing is going to stimulate some kind of emotion. And a lot of what we're doing in this planet Earth is becoming aware of suffering and how to pull out of suffering into a state of wholeness, how to pull out of the illusion of fragmentation or separation and come back into wholeness. So that being said, all of those experiences that we're having are meant to really highlight how we're going to navigate that. Now, we can navigate it in a couple different ways. We can create all kind of belief systems to help us navigate those difficult and trying experiences, or we can really come back to ourselves and use absolute truth and authenticity to shield us from those experiences as we are going through them. Okay, what happens when we don't do that? One of the most powerful ways of fragmenting the soul is by having a complete disconnect from what you're experiencing and what you believe you should be experiencing. That's really how trauma occurs. So, for example, if you have a belief or some kind of expectation that your mother and your father have to behave a certain way, and yet the behavior that you receive or that you're experiencing as while you're growing up as a child is completely lacking of love, or these nurturing roles that you thought your mother was going to have, or these nurturing protective roles that you thought your father was going to have, then there's a disconnect there. And so we feel a lack, we feel an emptiness. And so immediately, as I mentioned in many other videos, that's going to define how you see and how you experience the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Okay, so depending on how those are, they really define how we see the world and ourselves inside of us. Now, what happens? So we grow up, we go through all of these ages from the womb until the age of 7 is when you are programming and taking on all of the belief systems. Your chakras are developing one by one. And each one of the chakras are being developed with the information that is in the DNA, which is provided and fed from the DNA, which is your ancestral lineage and all of those ancestral programs, but it's also being solidified by your environment, right? And of course, your mother and your father are basically playing out those cyclical ancestral roles that you are literally observing as this human body. And so what happens is that you now experience all of these things that are happening until the age of 7, 8, 9, 10. To the age of 10, as a child, you have now formulated your beliefs, some belief systems, okay? And whether you were raised in a family where you have, dogmatic beliefs, or you have very strong cultural belief systems as well, they are going to make up how you see the world around you. So you keep going in your life and you begin to experience things that the way that you were taught you should have experienced them from your perspective as a man or a female, begin to kind of not connect, right? So they say that the man has to behave in a certain way. You go out into the world, the man does not necessarily always behave that way. And so this is how we begin to experience this kind of fragmentation in our belief systems. Now, what's really important is that we learn to cope with those experiences by creating new beliefs or modifying our beliefs in order to be able to deal and interact with these things that don't connect with us or that are a discrepancy in our belief system. And sometimes we learn and we are capable of accepting what we're dealing with, but other times it's very hard for us to accept what we're experiencing. And so even though we see others behaving the way they are, inside of us, we have a very strong belief and communication because we begin to feel resistance towards certain people or certain things or things that people say that really cause us to not want to interact with them or want to connect with them. And so this exchange that is occurring is both energetically, it's psychological, and it really affects the entire body. And so what happens when we get into very intimate relationships with partners that don't share our beliefs? Now, of course, the partner that we're matching with is going to be a vibrational match to the deep programming, to the subconscious vibrational frequency that you are, right? And that vibrational signature is made up of all of the belief systems, everything that you are. Okay, so the partner that you bring in is likely, if you are in an unconscious state, you're going to match with a partner that is going to be in a trigger, okay, or is going to mirror those kinds of imbalanced perspectives. If you are in a conscious state, then you might be able to choose a partner that's going to be more in alignment with you. But a lot of the times we don't come into those relationships until we are fully aware of ourselves and we fully know ourselves. So how do we know ourselves? How do we get to the point where we actually know who we are and we understand that what are the difference between our expectations and any kind of fragmentation or discrepancy between our belief systems and the things that are occurring outside of us? So one of the things is that really, really important and has really, really helped me is absolutely being authentic with how you're feeling, how you're speaking, and not being afraid to express the things that you really feel. And in our life right now, that can be very difficult, right? But the thing is that this requires digging in deeper. And one of the things is becoming aware of who you are, who you really are, not just the result of programming and all of the belief systems that you are as a child growing up, or just everything that has molded you, right? We come into a society that is set on molding your belief systems, everything from the entertainment or what we hear on television, to the music that we're listening to our environment when we're getting our education, when we are working. There's certain behavioral patterns and certain ways of being that are expected from each other in these environments, right? So a lot of it we realize doesn't really resonate with us, because inherently the human body has a blueprint of truth, and that blueprint of truth is literally what you are as infinite consciousness. When we are constantly lying to ourselves or living in a way that we're expressing things that aren't really in alignment with who we truly are, it causes a tremendous amount of fragmentation in the body. Okay, so what happens is that we want to speak or say something and we stop ourselves in that moment. The fact that you stopped yourself in that moment is creating a blockage, and that blockage is going to be in the throat chakra. But it's also connected to other parts of the body depending on what was feeding into that belief system that made you stop. A lot of times it's fear, insecurities, and feelings of having no power or no worth. Okay, so they can affect any one of the other chakras in the body. And so these programs are very, very important to become aware of how we are tapping into those belief systems, so that when we need to express ourselves, when we need to speak our truth, we can really come into the true authentic self. Now, there's a couple things that are very important in this, and the practice is, what are you speaking and how are you speaking it? Notice that everything that you say, when you begin to say it, does it cause you to resist, or does it make you feel weaker or less empowered, or does it make you feel more empowered? Okay? Your entire body will react to the things that you're saying. And if what you're saying is not your truth, it's not going to come across as an empowered and clear expression. If what you're saying is rooted in your truth, then it's going to come out as, it's not rooted in truth. It's going to come out as imbalanced. You're going to feel insecure about it. And it can be anything in the variations of your voice. It can be in the movements of your body. It can be the body language that's happening. And it's very interesting, especially in my sessions, when I work one-on-one with people and we're coming to these very, very, very important points in the session where they are reviewing a past experience. Even they can identify whether their expression was really an authentic expression or it was a learned expression. And they know that because as I ask them the question and say, tell me, is that true? Is your emotion true? Is your perception true? Is it right that you were unworthy? Or is it true that you were unworthy? They begin to kind of look and observe themselves from the third person perspective and realize that that perception was not the full truth. And so then you dive into that question as to why did I end up with the perception that I was not worthy? Okay, and then you start looking at that. Okay, who are the people that were involved in creating that perception at that moment? How did it happen? What are their belief systems? Where did they get their belief systems? And so you keep going down that questionnaire, and we're going to be doing that practice in just a minute, until you identify what is true for you, what is true for the others that have played a role in those interactions. And so you begin to mold and define who you are as a real, authentic person. And after working in this process, what you're going to realize is who you are is absolutely nothing compared to what you're expressing right now in the world, okay? Because everything, even the very small choice of words or the expressions or the things that you're going to say, we have been so conditioned to follow certain kind of emotional, emotional it's like emotional impulses, okay, that we neglect our true connection to ourselves. And these emotional impulses are usually rooted in fear and self-doubt or self-worth, but ultimately fear. Okay, the root cause of those kinds of emotional impulses are fear. And so what happens when we're constantly reacting in the world from fear-based thoughts, then our expression won't be authentic. So that's the beginning of fragmentation, because just by that thought form, just by that word or that expression, we begin to design the experience that we're going to be having with the person that's with us or that we're exchanging with, or even just ourselves, which is one of the most powerful things and the reason why I want to do this work with you today. Because why is there so much deception going on? Because we have completely neglected our inner voice. And I talked about this in the video earlier this week about trusting the self, how to trust the self. I mean, we completely don't listen to the inner voice. We just say, oh, we'll just listen to it later. But for now, we'll go with what most of the people are doing, which is listening to this video or listening to this person with their opinion. And so we completely become dispersed energetically in all of these different points of view. And where are you? Where are you in all of that? What do you really believe in? Okay, have you taken a moment to connect with that? The value of someone's truth and someone's authentic expression is so magnificently powerful, because when you embody that true expression, it means that you are literally connected and channeling to your higher self. You have connected to that divine blueprint, and blueprint is just a word, really, because what you are is infinite consciousness, okay? There is no parameters to that. You are an infinite creator self that you can bring in and channel as needed for when you are interacting in your experiences. And your ability to tap into your truth is going to be what will completely heal the body and change your mind. You will be completely astonished that if you begin to auto-observe yourself and to kind of observe the way that your thoughts come up and your feelings and your emotions come up, how many times a day do you lie to yourself or do you neglect your own truth? Have you ever tried an exercise like that? Notice, even sometimes when you are about to, I give the analogy of choosing water or coffee as the first drink in the morning. So I ask you to use your intuition daily and see which one resonates more with you. But how will you know who's making the decision, right? Does your body crave water because it's thirsty? Do you crave coffee because there is an addiction going on in the body? Or is the second brain in the body and the microbes in the body making you make the decision to choose coffee instead of water? So who's making the decision? We can identify who's making the decision by connecting with the body and really, really connecting with the true self. Okay, so there's a lot of systems that are influencing our choices constantly. And what you'll notice when you sit still with that moment of making a decision or a choice is that there's a lot of processes happening in the back end. Okay, and this is a really good time. It's a really good opportunity to sit with these, and so that you can really dive deep into those belief systems and become aware of how it works, how you work, how you function. Do most of your choices throughout the day happen because we're seeking for approval from others, or we are looking to be loved or accepted or attention, or we are looking to be acknowledged? Or do they happen because it's really an authentic expression? I guarantee that the majority of us would be completely different people if we really followed that true expression. And over time, by speaking your truth and by sitting in there, you create an incredible foundation of character, of self, and of grounding, in which you are no longer coming into these programs and patterns of fragmentation that really fragment. Why? Because when we don't speak our truth, even if it's something as simple as water and coffee, there is a disconnect that happens between the brain and the body. Okay, and this disconnect that happens between the brain and the body when we don't speak our truth or when we don't act on our truth creates a disassociation, in a sense, that is creating the fragmentation. And so anytime that we're not in alignment with what authentically we are, and what is authentic is what is good for the overall organism, not the ego, not just that moment of pleasure, not just that moment of gratification, but the overall body. We are consciously aware, in a sense where we're aware of everything in our body, all the systems, the balance of our body, our energetic state, our exchange, our manner of exchanging energetically with one another, and the health of our body. All of the different systems, the layers of this multidimensional body are accounted for. And so your choices are now coming from a very complete state of being and congruency, in other words. So anytime that you're not making choices and decisions and speaking and expressing your truth from that whole self is when fragmentation can occur. And the amount of fragmentation that occurs is that it really entangles us in situations that we become a vibrational match that don't belong to us, right? So we want to say no, but we say yes. And so our vibrational frequency has shifted to the match of this person or this event or this experience that we know doesn't match with us. And so that shifts our vibrational expression. Okay, and so think about it. What happens to the body energetically? You're connecting, number one, to this event or person or experience. And so now you're going to have to work through the consequences. It's like this cause and effect, karma, that you're going to be having to work with, right? So what that vibrational frequency that's not in alignment with your body is going to cause is it's going to produce events and experiences in your life that are a match to that wrong vibrational frequency to your body. So you're going to be manifesting in your body experiences that are causing and are playing off that frequency. If your choice was made from fear, you're going to be attracting experiences that play on that fear, on that insecurity, on that lack of self-worth, on that confusion. Okay, if you play into choose experiences and people that are toxic, and you know that they're toxic or that there's a disconnect energetically, you're going to be creating experiences with this person that are going to trigger and mirror all of those pain bodies of being unworthy, not being able to have healthy boundaries. I mean, you name it. There's a plethora of things that can be highlighted in the dynamics of a relationship. And so notice that this all stems in the inability to know your truth before making any kind of decision or to act on that decision. So this is how incredibly important this is to yourself as a human and as a spirit going through this human experience. Now, from the metaphysical perspective and the human soul body, what happens to your body when you begin to make these choices is something that I call fragmentation. And what does that mean? Fragmentation occurs when somebody experiences trauma or somebody is feeling helpless. Okay, so this helpless, the word helpless seems like something really, really big and scary and important and impactful. But the feeling of being helpless is a very, very subconscious process that occurs anytime we, once again, come into a place of inauthenticity. Okay, so anytime we come into a place of inauthenticity, because we're so connected with our true core self, we kind of play on an illusion self or the false self or the egoic self, which is not in alignment with our whole wellness. And so that will create the fragmentation of the soul. What does that mean? Literally, an aspect of yourself that has chosen this timeline, as I mentioned before, is now stuck in that moment of wrong choice. So what's going to have to happen is you're going to play out that choice in an event, a series of experiences. And if it causes more trauma, more pain before you become conscious of why you made that choice, you're going to have to go back through all of these experiences until you become aware of the point in which that choice was made. So you're going to have to become, that's awareness. Real true awareness means that you're taking the time to look back at your experiences, becoming very accountable, very truthful with yourself as to why you chose those choices. And it is incredibly important for the healing of your body to be able to take that journey, because what you'll find is that these choices that are not in alignment with you cause problems in the body as well, right? So that's fragmentation. Fragmentation is literally when we are stuck in those choices that are not in alignment with you. It's a vibrational frequency that doesn't fit, that doesn't match with your entire organism. And so you have to play out that frequency. And so it's a cause and effect. You created something and the effect is going to be produced from that matching frequency. And so obviously that's going to be in the plane of suffering, because the origin of that is fear or disconnect or confusion. Okay, so whatever suffering is as a consequence of that choice that's not in alignment with you is what's going to be playing out. And it can be something simple as having no energy, feeling drained. And on an emotional side, it can be feeling unworthy, unseen, or exact opposite of what you thought you were going to get from that exchange. Okay, so these are just very simple examples, but when you dive deep into these individual experiences, it's going to open a whole world of understanding of yourself and why you make the choices that you make. The thing is, how do we fix it, right? How do we fix that? So we go through the process of identifying the origin of that moment that we made the choice that's not in alignment with you, and you begin to work. Notice, first of all, the most important thing is to identify the resistance within you for that authenticity. Why is there a resistance for that authenticity? Where does it stem? Is it a reoccurring pattern? What part of you doesn't feel safe? There are two things that are happening here. One of them, someone is being preserved. By this lie, somebody is being preserved. So the question is, who's being preserved? And why does it need to be preserved? Okay? And so as you identify that, you begin to understand who is actually running the show in the subconscious mind. And secondly, we begin to identify the lies that we tell ourselves by really checking in, okay? So for example, is it true that you're unworthy? Is it true that you're not lovable? Is it true that you are not enough? Okay, so what is it? What is it that has caused you to act in that way? And finally, what is it that you're looking to achieve? Okay, so are you looking for acceptance? Are you looking for love? Are you looking to be safe, to be acknowledged, accepted? So what is it that you're looking for? And it's really important that you identify that, because once you know that, then you can begin to work with yourself with more compassion. And as your day goes by, you begin to become aware of why you make the choices you make. I want to eat that donut because the donut looks so sweet and delicious. And right now I'm so stressed out that I need something sweet to satiate a part of me because I can't handle the stress. Okay, but the subconscious mind just wants to unconsciously eat that because it has this program that when it eats that, it feels comforted, right? It feels comforted. Something is filled. And so these are the lies that we tell ourselves. We are lying to ourselves because we think that this food or this sweet object is going to cause us comfort, when in reality it causes a tremendous amount of damage in the body, and really at the end of the day takes us through the sugar high, puts us in a crash, and then it's more of a depressive than anything. So when you're done eating that donut, you're down energetically, emotionally, everything. And so these little things seem like they're insignificant, but little by little, as you know, they build up who we are. That donut is going to be the sugar that's going to be riding the proteins in your DNA. So do you want that sugar to be what you are? Okay, you are what you eat, you are what you think, you are what you do. So when are you going to come into your true expression? And when are you going to be this incredible, authentic self? Now, there's one more thing. I have a couple notes here, but The final thing I want to talk about is how the body knows that its blueprint is this truth. And that's something that is completely inherent in us, okay? And I'm going to do a separate video on what is true because it's a very big topic and there's a lot of parts to it on understanding what is true. For this video and in our identifying what is true for us, all that we want to do is find out ourselves, first, what's blocking us from speaking and being our truth and being our most authentic expression, and two, helping us choose and work with that resistance, okay? Work with the resistance that doesn't allow us to get into that. So I think that's it. Let's get into it, okay? So I want you all to get really nice and comfortable. You're going to inhale deeply and exhale. You're just going to begin by grounding yourself and connecting with your body. So just calming the mind, breathing, inhaling deeply and exhaling. Very good. Now that you've calmed your body, we're going to help ourselves, calm ourselves. Coming from our very busy day, we're just going to close the first chakra, the second chakra, and the third chakra. Coming into a state of complete neutrality. You're going to put yourself in your protective field around you, becoming aware of your energetic space, becoming aware of yourself. Inhaling deeply and exhaling. Okay, we're going to start. I want you to start tapping in to your body now as you expand the heart, the throat, and the third eye, coming into a reading state so that you can close the centers that are pulling away from your truth. In order to find your truth and what's real, tapping into your intuitive truth, we have to disconnect from the stimulation of the physical plane. So you're going to be closing the first, second, and third chakra, opening the heart, the throat, and the third eye, coming into this reading state, and you're going to go up to your crown, just becoming aware of that space in the crown chakra. You're going to inhale deeply and exhale. Very good, very good, very good. So now I want you to tap into the emotion that you're feeling in your body. Go ahead and check in with your body. What's your body feeling in this moment? Okay, we're going to observe the body. Go ahead and pick the emotion that's coming up for you here and now as a result of your day. Okay. Notice if you're tensing any part of your body. Notice if your tummy is tight or your chest is tight or you're holding on to some really heavy energy in your back. Notice, become really connected with your body. Notice where there's tension. And then as you feel that tension, you're going to begin to release it and you're going to be identifying an emotion. If an emotion is not coming up immediately, this is how you can identify what is happening in the body. Okay? Go to where there is tightness, where there is stiffness in the body. Inhale deeply and exhale. So you're going to tap into the emotion that comes up here in this moment. And I want you to identify it. Go ahead and what emotion is that? And you're going to ask yourself, why am I feeling that way? So identify, why are you feeling that way? Why are we having this emotion in our body? Let's tap into that. Why is this emotion here? Where did it come from? So think about where this emotion came from today. Is it something that's been lingering in the body throughout the day, or did something trigger this emotion? Go ahead and tap into that. Okay, becoming aware of that emotion, becoming aware of its origin, just in itself. This is an incredible exercise by itself. This is how we train our awareness. And as you tap into where it came from, begin to take a look at the origin of that emotion. Once you identify why you feel this way, ask yourself if it's true that you feel this way. Just ask yourself. You might be thinking, of course it's true, it's in my body. But ask yourself, is that emotion true? So wherever this emotion originated, ask yourself if the reason why you have this emotion is in alignment with yourself. Okay, go ahead and tap into that emotion. Is there a need for that emotion? What is the need for that emotion? What does it help us do to feel that? How come we decided to feel this emotion as a result of what happened? Okay, notice what comes up. You're going to get a lot of information about yourself and about why you chose this emotion. And as you identify the reason behind why you chose this emotion, take a look at those reasons. Begin to tap into those reasons, okay? These reasons are really incredibly important for you to identify. So if you're able to get this far, it really helps you to become aware of yourself, get to know yourself, how you think. And now I want you to identify why you think that way. So now that you've gotten to this point where you are identifying the emotions, why do you react in that way? Is it true what you believed in order to make you behave this way or respond emotionally in this way? Is it true? Is that belief true? Notice that. Okay, sit with it. Notice if there's any resistance. Okay, this might be the point where resistance starts to come up, because we begin to battle with ourselves. We begin to battle our belief systems, the rational ideas and ideologies behind these emotions. And this isn't an exercise of judgment. This is an exercise of understanding. We're not classifying anything as good and bad. We're just identifying why we came to this emotion at this time. Okay? And who is it serving? Okay, so how does this emotion help us? Go ahead and identify. What is it doing? Who's being protected, preserved by this emotion? Go ahead and identify that. Okay. So now that you've identified who is needing this emotion really, I want you to see, what does that part of you need in order to not need this emotion? Let's take an example of anxiety. You feel anxiety. You feel anxiety because you feel that it creates a barrier, an emotional barrier between your fear and what you're expressing. Okay, so is it true that it's creating the barrier? No. Okay. How does it serve you? How does that anxiety serve you? It doesn't. You realize it doesn't. Okay, so why do we apply this anxiety? Because it's a learned response. Okay, so identify then, what do you need in order to not resort to anxiety? What's needed instead? So if you dive really deep into this example, the anxiety is a fear of judgment. Okay, so in your own exercises, identify, why did that emotion emerge? Is it a fear? Is that anxiety a result of fear of judgment? Okay, what are we afraid of being judged by? Other people, other people's perspective. Okay. Does the other person's opinion define who we are? No. Okay, who defines yourself? You. Okay. So just take a look at that and keep going as you're asking. You ask these questions to begin to understand. Okay, you're beginning to understand. And notice any resistance that your body feels at responding to these questions. Okay, who doesn't want to be seen? Always ask yourself, if you can't find an answer to the question, or you have a hard time, notice who is trying to be protected by not seeing the truth behind these emotions, behind these expressions of you. And you can keep going down that path, identifying why you came to the belief system that you need anxiety to help you, or whatever emotion it is. Okay, and I would even invite you to do this even if it's a joyful experience. Okay, is it true joy? Believe it or not, sometimes an expression of joy can actually be stemming from fear, in order to get away from what we really feel in the body. So any of you that feel resistance here as you're asking the questions, as you keep going in this exercise, identify in your body where you feel that resistance. And you're going to breathe deeply, inhale and exhale. Again, you're asking, who doesn't want to be truthful, or who is being protected by not knowing the answer to that question? You might end up at your ego or fear. Okay? Inhale deeply and exhale. And you're going to keep going until you find You're going to keep going until you find your truth. And when you find your truth, when you find the root of this emotion in your truth and your emotions and your expressions and your belief systems, you're going to feel an incredible opening, an incredible release. You're going to find that what happens when you speak your truth, when you identify your truth, you can breathe again because your body immediately comes back into alignment. That's how you know that you found the truth. If your body is still tense, holding on to that emotion, then you haven't gotten there yet. You have to keep going. Keep going. Keep asking the questions until you know why you got there. Okay? So breathing is going to be really important in this exercise. And patience. Patience. And this exercise is for you to begin to work with your fear of seeing who you really are. Because a lot of us, sometimes we run away from who we really are. Okay, we want to always put this facade for other people, but who we really are is the divine expression of perfection just as it is. Because you are infinite consciousness, becoming aware through all experiences, positive, negative, and all of them are absolutely essential to coming into your expression. Okay. So as you keep going in this exercise, once you have felt that opening, you're going to inhale deeply and exhale. And I invite you to take your time, and you can do this on your own time, really practicing with each one of those thoughts and memories and experiences, really working with the resistance that comes up, and you keep going until you understand, why do you believe that you need to feel these emotions, or why do you believe you need to express yourself in that way? Okay. You're going to slowly work with your root chakra. You're going to open that root chakra back into a balanced state. You're going to go up to the sacral chakra. You're going to open it back into a balanced state. You're going to go up to the solar plexus. You're going to open that chakra back into a balanced state. You're going to slowly close the heart, the throat, and the third eye. Your chakras are in a perfect alignment up your body. Inhaling and exhaling. And you can come back. Now, some of you that have joined me, thank you for joining me. I would like to take a time to answer questions, because I'm sure that some of you will have questions about this practice, and you can also DM me privately. But what happens with this exercise is, at first, it's going to be very hard to get there. Okay, it's going to be hard to ask the questions and get the answers immediately. So you need to push past the resistance to see your truth, to see your answers. And sometimes we might get stuck with the answers, but I really want you to question, why do you believe? Why do you believe that this anxiety is necessary? Why do you believe that your body needs to hold on to the anxiety? Okay? And if you realize that you don't, go deeper. Where did the program come in? Who needs that inside of me? Is it a self-preservation? Is it to keep me engaged in what I'm doing? Is it to keep me distracted? From what am I being distracted? Who am I not able to express when I'm busy being anxious? Okay, so this is how we really dive deep into our core self. And once we identify who we are, underneath all of those things that literally, they're lies that we tell ourselves all the time, for emotions that we're going to be feeling, choices that we're going to be making, everything that we do in our lives, sometimes we have gone so far away from ourselves that we can never come back into authenticity, because we're always looking for approval or looking for acceptance. And so it's a very toxic way of living. And even though you might feel healthy and you think that everything is fine, it's going to manifest itself in your life as problems, as blockages, manifestation issues with money, with friends, with love life, everything. And even in parenting, your children know very good what is real, what is true. And they pick up any time that you are being inauthentic, not just with yourself, but with others. And so it's very interesting. A child always knows the authentically what is real. So if we are showing our expression as an inauthentic self, then the child is feeling that fragmentation because they don't see truth. And so they grow up in a world in which, just like we did, we're always pretending to be something that we're not. So imagine what you would be, a force to be reckoned with, if you were the full expression of yourself without fear, without ever having to worry. Your communications will come out clear, your needs will be met, and your relationships and interactions with partners, friends, and business and work will always be less traumatic and less painful or causing suffering for yourself and for others. And that's really what it means to come into consciousness and awareness. It's living an aware and conscious life. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me today. I want to thank you so much, and I hope you guys have an incredible day. If you guys have questions, write it down below. I'd love to answer it, and I hope this helped, and we'll touch this subject again another time. Okay, all my love. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, Nicholas. Thank you. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Michael. Hey, Denise. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sandra. Shout out to Juan, Ayola. Thank you so much for being, guys. Thank you for the healing session that has released stress and recentered and realigned me. You're welcome, Jason. I'm so happy to hear that. That's amazing. Asha, Norman, David, Juan, I love everything you're saying. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's really important. This is an important topic. Adrian, Candy, Elle, and really what ends up happening is a real healing in the body, okay? It's an incredible opening and expansion that can help move illness and blockages, and more importantly, create integration from fragmentation. This is number one step to getting into that. Cedric, namaste. Namaste. Thank you so much. Have an amazing night. Thank you, Lynn. Have an incredible night, and I'll see you soon.